Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Whisky Snob. My name is Tolga, your host, as always, and today again I am joined by Mr. Chris Chambers, the Honourable. We are back, as you can see, in Path Bar School, rummaging around again, more whiskey. Thank you very much. I'm having lots of fun in here. Absolutely love it. You guys can't get in, unfortunately, because it is a private bar school that's meant for trade. So, but what we can do is we can bring you lots of lovely and new whiskies that maybe you haven't tried. You've probably seen this on my shelves at home and in some of the other reviews. But today, obviously, we're going to be tasting it here. This is the beautiful and wonderful Bunnahabhain 18-year-old whiskey. Now, Bunnahabhain is one of 8 distilleries on the island of Islay, off the west coast of Bonnie, Scotland. Most of you are sort of familiar with Islay. You get all your big peated whiskies, Ardbegs, Lefroy, Kalila, Lagavulin, Port Ellen, which is closed now, obviously, the Bruichladdich Distillery, which has Oxmoor and Port Charlotte. You also have Kilchoman and Bunnahabhain. So Bunnahabhain is one of 2 distilleries that produce a non-peated whiskey. Bruichladdich is being the other one. Now, I love Bunnahabhain as a distillery. Not many people know it commercially. It's a very small distillery. However, it has a very specific taste profile. They are the most northerly, I believe, distillery in Islay, and they are based at the mouth of a river that comes in off the sea. Is it the North Sea then? No.
No, North Sea is on the northeast coast.
Okay, so what happens there is that they have a very specific sort of characteristics, lots of brine that comes through, but also they produce and mature all their whiskies in sherry casks. So you get these beautiful, big, almost like salted caramel flavours coming out of the whiskey, which is fantastic. And I absolutely adore all of their expressions, and it's a decent whiskey. I mean, this is 46.3%. So you're not gonna, you're not messing around when you start playing with this whiskey here. You can add water to it. You can play with it. You can do some really good pairings with food, with cigars, with cheese, with just on its own, if that's what you're into.
Yeah, I remember the Burn Stewart when they basically did quite a canny thing with the fact that they were clearly listening to what the drinkers of the whiskey were saying, because I mean, it's fair to say something like Bunnahabhain or Deanston, like they're not massively commercial whiskies, so they do tend to be drunk by people who are already whiskey enthusiasts. And one of the things that we like unchill filtered whiskies, and we also like, if we can't have natural cask strengths, we like at least 46% and above. And when they make the decision that all of the whiskies across their range, so the Tobermory as well, and Legic, of course, they upped all of the strengths and took out all of the caramel. And so, like I said, they nailed their colours to the mast. That they said that this is a company for what they consider to be the real kind of hardcore whiskey drinkers, and certainly it really kind of paid off. Like a lot of their whiskies that were all good whiskies, they just went up another notch in terms of sort of perceived quality, because it just had that extra thing that we all like to see in our bottles.
Do you think part of a brand or a whiskey's popularity depends or has a direct correlation with the pronounceability of its name?
I think that can go both ways. I mean, it depends how nervous you are about using foreign languages. I mean, some people love mangling unpronounceable words with aplomb, and other places will go for something a little bit more simpler, or just go for it. That one there with the black bottle and the green label and the man piloting a ship on it. So I don't know. It's an interesting question, actually, to look at that.
There are, I mean, you can usually gauge when you sometimes walk into a bar, and this is evident of myself as well. I mean, I wrote this in one of my blogs with another distillery. if you walk into a bar and you can feel that the barman is on point and you don't mind asking questions and that you can see that they're actually educated enough to give you relevant answers, you don't mind taking a risk or asking them to tell you more about it.
Sure.
The worst thing that you can do is walk into a bar and ask a barman about a whiskey and they wouldn't be able to tell you what goes into it, let alone what it tastes like.
Sure.
Because they don't drink it, they're not interested in it.
No,
and then you get on the other spectrum, on the other side of the spectrum, you've got the guys who are complete tossers and snobs. And the moment you mispronounce anything, we'll try and the worst thing is actually sometimes they don't know how to pronounce it, and they make. I was sat in a bar once and I saw a guy try to correct a customer when he was ordering his whiskey, and the guy's like, "No, that's not how you say it." I'm like, "No, that is how you say it." I was like, "No, because," and the customer that was there is like, "I live in that fucking town. I should know how to pronounce the same name of the fucking distillery." And he's like, even if the bartender was right, which he wasn't, but even if he was, there was no need for him to make anyone feel inadequate or belittle them for not knowing how to pronounce the name of the distillery.
Yeah, and I do see that from time to time, and to be honest, I think that that's something quite common when you get really into malt appreciation, is that it's a phase that everyone goes through. It's like you can almost kind of chart people's point on the path, if you like, to this example. Like someone who's not into whiskey at all will just take whatever they can get, don't care how to pronounce it, have something that has a nice age in it, and then fine. And then you go through this kind of zealous puritanism, where it's like the idea of adding anything, even more water to your whiskey, is liable to get you thrown out the bar. And so, like adding an R to your pronunciation, an extra R to your pronunciation of Ardbeg is like tantamount to insulting somebody's mother. And don't get me started on blended whiskey. And yet, after a period of time, you just kind of relax and settle down and think, okay, this whiskey from Japan is actually quite good, and I actually really enjoyed that black label that I had. And then, just come out the other side and think, well, okay, all whiskies can be enjoyed on different occasions. And if someone doesn't mind with the pronunciation, let's not forget that whiskey is global and English is not everyone's first language, let alone Scots. So, you'd have to allow a lot more sort of forgiveness, especially people from newer whiskey drinking countries who just might not even be able to pronounce the whiskey correctly.
Well, listen, I mean, having grown up with a lot of Scottish people and being around a lot of Scottish drunk people, you guys have a difficulty speaking, pronouncing normal words when once you've had a few drinks. It's difficult to hold any conversation. Most famous is a friend of mine called Tommy, and he left Scotland when he was 16. Yeah, however, to this day, the moment you get about half a dozen pints in him, that's it, game over. His accent comes back. And if it wasn't for the fact that I've known him for 20 years, and we've actually shared a house together, and we, he's like a brother to me. If it wasn't for the fact that I spent so much time with him, I would never have been able to understand half the shit that comes out of his mouth when he's drunk, because literally as the night goes on, he progressively gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and actually he can't understand half the things he ends up saying after about 12 pints, which is usually quite a lot of fun, although it does get us into a lot of trouble sometimes. That's another video. But
this whiskey is not the kind of whiskey that usually comes out in that sort of evening. I mean, so this whiskey always reminds me of, I always have a vision of a log fire whenever I'm nosing this, which is a little bit of a struggle to put that to more conventional kind of tasting notes. But
big,
it's like
smelly, like sheep wool cardigans and jumpers and stuff.
If you've ever been to Islay, if you've been to any kind of grassy sort of woodland area and it's a little bit damp in the air or actually pissing it down, and then you've got you're walking with your dog, going through the moors, and then you finally go in and just sort of settle down in the chair. You're still soaking wet from outside. You just think you're absolutely exhausted.
And the dog farts.
It don't even matter. You need to pour some whiskey to get over that. And this is probably the whiskey that I would pour in that sort of scenario.
I mean, it's so crazy the fact that actually there's so much going on in this glass at the moment. If you guys only could smell what we're smelling at the moment. But on top of all of that, you can actually smell sea spray. like ocean spray.
Yeah. It's
You can
probably
almost visualize. If you close your eyes, and you smell it. You can visualize like waves crashing on the banks of these, the mouth of this river that's coming in. Oh, beautiful sweetness.
Let's get stuck in.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Takes your breath away a little bit.
Yeah. I can't deny it. It's. Always keeping even something as sort of open as a top 10 of number of whiskies that I've had. Always changing from time to time. But certainly, at the very least, in the top 50, this particular expression is always in there for me. It's just something about it that just kind of sticks with me, and it's a bottle that I would always want to have in my collection.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, like I said, it's always on the bar at home. You can open it up, it's gonna have a certain effect on you. It's gonna make you smile. It's one of those whiskies that if you've had a shit day, you definitely want to reach for one of these bottles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll get really, even though it's not a peated Islay whiskey, there's definitely this big barbecue smells in it, like charred wood and smoky wood, but not a peat smoke. It's more of a char smoke. But that married with that big sherry finish, that big sweetness is so rich.
It's wonderful that sort of 18 years of age, of course, whiskies are maturing quite a bit, but I still sort of think a little bit more kind of freshness and sort of youthfulness. I mean, this one, if you could put it as a person, is someone sort of mature beyond their years almost.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely gives you a lot more than what you expect out of it. That's for sure. I'm just going to add a drop of water. I know it doesn't need it. Oops, it's a bit too much.
It's funny, in Puritanism, this exact sort of behaviour would have caused me to throw someone out of my first ever bar job, singing, "What are you doing?"
Well, we're adding water.
Yeah, even that. So it was quite insufferable in those days. So, but like I said, we've all done it from time to time until you experiment a bit more.
Just open that up.
Still holds its shape very well, though. It's like it holds together. There's not.
You don't lose the integrity of the whiskey.
No,
for sure. And actually, not much has changed. Even by adding a little bit of water, not much has changed in the viscosity of that liquid. It's still rich. It's still quite thick, and it definitely becomes a lot creamier.
Yeah.
On the nose, yes, it opened it up. It kept its integrity. That richness was still there. The smoke is still there. Actually, it's not, but I'm almost getting like a little bit of sulfur. I know it isn't, but no, it's not sulfur. But it touches that way because of that charred wood smell. But
yeah. So that kind of like bonfire quality is still very much there. So
the finish on this whiskey is fantastic, though. It really takes you out, and there's a lot of clove and cinnamon.
Yeah.
And a touch of nutmeg. This, for me, again, is another great Christmas whiskey. I always bring it out at Christmas when I do tastings. It's one, along with a Glendronach, either the Revival or the Analyst. I put it out there because it really does go well with the festive season. But this, in my opinion, has been a fantastic dram for me since the first time I tried it. Although it did take me a while to actually to discover Bunnahabhain. I was always slightly apprehensive as to try an unpeated Islay whiskey because it's not something that you would expect.
No, of course. So always overshadowed in a way by its brethren on the south coast. But much like if you're on the island itself and you have to take a bit of a journey to kind of find the distillery itself, it's the same. Like you're taking a little bit of a journey out of your comfort zone sometimes to find it on your local whiskey shop shelves. But in both occasions, you're rewarded for seeking it out.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I want to say thank you again to everybody. We have to call it a day.
Finish the rest of this bottle.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Path Bar School again, and African and Eastern for allowing us to run wild in this joint. And thank you, Chris, for joining me for another episode. Thank you at home, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment, and please, if you drank this whiskey, or if you're drinking it with us, please leave your comments. I'd be happy to respond. Thank you very much. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page as well. See you later. Bye.